If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
That was David Grusch, the UFO whistleblower that has been taking the US media by storm. Before I go into his credentials and the other people on and off the record that are vouching for the accuracy of his testimony, I first want to explore, at least partly, what he may be referencing when he says that there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the US populace. On June 5th, the debrief.org published part 1 of a companion series to their main article that started this whole brouhaha. This companion piece is titled Fact Check, Q&A with Debrief co-founder and investigator Tim McMillan, Part 1. In it, Tim McMillan explains how, according to David Grusch, UFO study efforts have been ongoing over decades without appropriate reporting to various oversight authorities. David Grusch's expose on this is absolutely fascinating. This will be a long excerpt, but it's incredibly important as it gives us a glimpse into the architecture of the alleged cover-up. Now, to the article. Christopher Plain. Now, this is less something you fact check and just more something I would like clarity on. Quote unquote from the article. Grusch asserted that UFO legacy programs have long been concealed within multiple agencies nesting UAP activities in conventional secret access programs without appropriate reporting to various oversight authorities, unquote. So my understanding or my reading of that would be that rather than secret access programs set up specifically to study UFOs or UFO debris or material, there would be a secret access program already set up to study something else. And the term nesting within there was a way to keep it hidden while the main stuff of that program was reported. Am I reading that correctly? Tim McMillan. Yeah, you're correct. I mean, that's what Grusch is asserting and what he's testified to legal counsel and to the Inspector General is that the government's UAP activities, rather than there being necessarily like one single secretive UAP office, if you will, it's that these things have kind of been nested and spread out into already special access and compartmented programs. It's like ultra compartmentalization. Christopher Plain. Okay, Tim McMillan. They compartmented this program in other compartments as well. So it's really spread out, you know. What's being said there is that if there's a compartmented program looking at a certain type of, let's say, satellite reconnaissance, they just add to that tasking. Quote, we want you to look for the particular signatures or these particular activities as well as what you're already looking at and give us that information back as well, unquote. So it's seeding in things that would be specific to UAP within existing programs that are involved in stuff that have nothing to do with UAP. Christopher Plain. So this is another way of essentially obscuring it rather than having a special access program or secret access program that is specifically just about all the UAP stuff. By taking the pieces of it and spreading it to other secret programs, it makes it much harder to find. Is that correct, Tim McMillan? Right. It's very spread out. It's spread out all over the place, and it also extremely narrows the scope over who knows what. So each person knows only a very small sliver of what's going on, even when they're working on it. Christopher Plain, gotcha. Tim McMillan. So, if you've tasked the UAP's specific activity within an existing NRO SAP program, let's say, That means that whatever you're specifically looking for, that person who's that analyst or that operator that's collecting that data may know about it, but the people sitting at the desk next to you don't know. They only know about the NRO program that they think they're part of. And so it really is just an extra way of obscuring things. Christopher Plain, gotcha. So extra security and extra hiding, essentially. Tim McMillan, yeah, it makes it much more difficult to find. If you have a Joint Special Operations UAP Center or Command where everything is localized, where everything is centralized, that makes it very easy to get, well, that's where we need to go. This just spreads it out where you're able to achieve your mission through a really diverse workforce. But it's so dispersed that it's hard to really, for any person to really understand what's going on. They all have a single slice of the pie. So this would be part of the explanation of how the architects of the secrecy, if you will, have kept this profoundly important topic not only concealed from all 8 billion of us, but from the vast majority of our own government. Scandalous, if I do say so myself. Sadly, it gets worse. It's not just the structure of the secrecy within government that is so troubling, but the efforts that have been made in various capacities over the decades to thwart this topic from being taken seriously. Here, Ralph Blumenthal on the Debrief YouTube channel, who co-authored the Grusch expose along with Leslie Kean, goes into this.
And, you know, the government has played a very sordid role here. We have to say that in concealing the truth from the American people. I'm not talking about classified information. I'm talking about basic facts. They've had a government policy through various administrations going back to World War II and earlier to ridicule this phenomenon, to stigmatize it, to pressure the media not to run these stories. And basically, it put a cloud over the entire field, which we still feel today. People are reluctant to come forward. And that's only because the government was afraid to say that we don't know what this phenomenon is. We can't protect the American people from something we don't know, what it is. If they'd only said that, it would have probably encouraged people to come forward long before this. So there's been a long history of disinformation, misinformation, and really, which is, I'm not the first one to say this. But it's a very sad history, and we're suffering the consequences of it today.
This sad history that journalist Ralph Blumenthal just expressed goes further, as our scientific understanding of this enigma has been squelched to an inexcusable degree. We as a collective would know so much more about this enigma if the US government did not engage in propaganda and excessive secrecy. With the surfacing of David Grusch and his testimony, and likely future whistleblowers coming forward, and more admissions by the US government, I think that the scientific community will see the days ahead as an imperative to make up for lost time to get to the bottom of the UFO enigma. In my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, there are beautiful days ahead. That is, if you like paradigm shifts. In the light of scientific understanding of this enigma, here is an absolutely fascinating excerpt from Michael Schellenberger's article titled, U.S. has 12 or more alien spacecraft, say military and intelligence contractors, published on his Substack publication, Public. Straight to the article. All of the individuals pointed to secrecy as an obstacle to reverse engineering the craft. One military contractor said that in December 2010, a major aerospace corporation tried to work around the secrecy by creating a buffer organization to prevent scientists and engineers who lacked top secret clearance from learning where the tech they worked on came from. But the military sharply rejected the proposal. The proposal, the person said, was that, quote, we would apply science and engineering talent because the Aerospace Corporation security meant they were not having as much success as had been hoped for. And so we were proposing to horizontally cut through the stovepipes, which compartmentalize work to keep it secret. So there would be very few people interfacing with the aerospace company, and the science and engineering talent wouldn't need to know about the full nature of the tech. The contractor said the U.S. government agency rejected the idea. Quote, the Aerospace Corporation vice president took it back to his customer, a government agency I won't name, and they refused. It was a very strong refusal. There was no chance of this ever happening. The main concern was that there would be a potential for a leak, but it seemed like it was a very flat no, with not a lot of reason given. Quote, the aerospace vice president was pretty stressed out about the whole thing. Apparently, it was not a very polite no that was given. The main problem, according to the Aerospace Corporation, was that they were handcuffed left, right, and center. And that was the last we ever heard of it, unquote. One source estimated there were only between 100 and 700 individuals in government or working for government contractors who know about the retrieved crash, while another person estimated that even fewer knew about the full program to reverse engineer alien technology. Quote, maybe on our side there were 3 people total, unquote, said the contractor, whose proposal to cut through the stovepipe was rejected. Quote, there were 4 or 5 people who I knew of on the Aerospace Corporation side, end quote. And that's a problem, said the people we interviewed. Quote, the problem is this overwhelming security apparatus, and so a brainstorming session that is necessary to scientific and engineering is not possible, unquote. David Grusch, a 14-year intelligence officer veteran, came onto the scene on July 5th. Let's go into some non-anonymous heavy hitters that are backing his extraordinary assertions up. Carl E. Nell, a recently retired Army colonel and current aerospace executive, stated, quote, his assertions concerning the existence of a terrestrial arms race occurring sub rosa over the past 80 years, focused on reverse engineering technologies of unknown origin, is fundamentally correct, as is the indisputable realization that at least some of these technologies of unknown origin derive from non-human intelligence. Jonathan Gray, an intelligence officer specializing in UAP analysis at the National Air and Space Intelligence Center that is currently employed, stated, the existence of complex historical programs involving the coordinated retrieval and study of exotic materials dating back to the early 20th century should no longer remain a secret, he said. The majority of retrieved foreign exotic materials have a prosaic terrestrial explanation and origin, but not all, and any number higher than 0 in this category represents an undeniably significant statistical percentage. He also stated, the non-human intelligence phenomenon is real. We are not alone, Gray said. Retrievals of this kind are not limited to the United States. This is a global phenomenon, and yet a global solution continues to elude us. And finally, he stated as well, a vast array of our most sophisticated sensors, including space-based platforms, have been utilized by different agencies, typically in triplicate, to observe and accurately identify the out-of-this-world nature, performance, and design of these anomalous machines, which are then determined not to be of earthly origin. This is only the beginning. I know not where this is heading. I believe there is a UFO cover-up, and I think that what we're witnessing right now is an unraveling of that cover-up. But as I always remind you, I could of course be wrong. But what is important is we watch this all unfold as more facts and details emerge so that we can make the most informed analysis possible on a day-to-day basis. Exciting times indeed. An hour interview with Ross Coulthart and David Grusch will air at 8 Central tonight on News Nation. I do not know where you can watch this outside of a cable subscription, just so you know. But I will be joining a pre-show an hour before it goes live on the Good Trouble Show with Matt Ford. Omega Points, or Daniel Elizondo, which is his real name, will be there as well. If you want to check that out, a link is in the description below. It will begin at 7 Central this evening. Please do not forget to subscribe. And you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You could give me a one-time donation. All of those potentialities can be accessed in the description below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I will appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. It's on. It's on like Donkey Kong. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.